my name is Angela, which I always think is very unique. You know, Angel A, I know Angel B through Z, but luckily today there's two Angelas here, and the second Angela that's going to come up is a co-writer with her father-in-law. How cool is this? I have Angela Tourville and Michael Tourville. We got the father-daughter-in-law team who have co-written a book to help people with their mortgages. I mean, again, we are informing someone about something they need to know, because I am a firm believer that high schools should be teaching this kind of stuff. High school should teach us balance our checkbook, how to buy a car, how to change a tire, how to sew something. We're not learning the essentials we need to learn in the real world. We're learning, and I'm sorry, I know my aunt is in the audience who is a math teacher, we're learning trigonometry. I haven't used that once since I passed it on a test. And I did pass it because I memorized it to get through the test, and then I forgot it. Like, we're learning things in school that aren't in our real life. So thank God there's people that will write the book to share how to do this. And not only has Michael Tourville been on my show now 3 times, Angela once, because Angela has written a book with Michael about the mortgage company, but Michael has written 2 other books, and he is the one who helped train me on how to do a podcast. So I owe a lot to him, and I want to welcome both of them up here while they discuss the book that they co-wrote, and hopefully Michael will also share some of his book. All right, come on up.
Want to stay up here with us?
I can stay up here with you. And the reason why he wants me to stay up here is because he likes to be sandwiched between 2 Angelas.
Yes.
We're the AMA.
Yeah, the man in the middle, 2 angels, right? Yeah. Well, thanks for all that mention. But and you were right. I think you hit the nail on the head, because the how-to book, and a lot of people approach mortgages. It's not often the most exciting topic, but buying a house is exciting when you're doing it for the first time. So
Should be.
we're trying to guide people through that. And Angela was the brains behind it all, right? Yeah, she was.
Well, and buying a house is exciting, but
depends on what part of the brain.
applying for a mortgage is not fun.
It's not.
The financial stuff is not fun. Trying to get all that paperwork together, and I mean, personally, I read this and I'm thinking, I don't know how to begin.
Forget it.
And now you've showed me where to begin, and it's really by calling her.
Yeah. Well,
But-
it's in an easy to read way too. It's very easy to read. It's a little storytelling in it. And by the way, what's I think important, it includes a lot of area local professionals, realtors, attorneys that talk about this in an easy to read manner. Yeah. So.
Well, Andrew, I think you hit it really well, the reason, the why behind it. And I just want to say how inspired I am today, seriously, because someone said something about journaling. A couple people did, actually. And before I heard you say that, you know, Mike and we did this. Obviously, it's my first exposure to anything like this, so I'm learning as I go. And I said, gosh, I journal every day. I really feel like doing something a little deeper. And then you guys all validated it for me, so thank you. I love being in this, just around everybody here. It's awesome, all your talents. And you know, I'm someone who wasn't taught this stuff either. And you know, I think my next book may be a little bit about my personal story, but I've learned all this myself through trials and errors. And fortunately enough, I was exposed to the industry at a young age, and I was able to learn as I went. I started as a receptionist, had probably less knowledge than you homeowners in here right now. And I learned all the ropes, all the things, and I still always saw the gap and the problem, and is the lack of education. This stuff isn't actually complicated, it really isn't. But someone had mentioned it through our travels around the tables, is that there's a lot of selfishness when you're getting advice from somebody. So, and also too, when you're Googling or going into AI, right? If you're not inputting the right thing, you're not going to get the right output. And sometimes you might input the right thing, but you get an output that is going to guide you into a place that might not be the right advice. So the book, really, we wanted to make sure it was an unsolicited place where you can come and say, oh, you know, I really don't want to think about my credit, but it's so overwhelming, I hate it. But if you know what? Yeah, that's the one thing I'm going to do. And you can just grab it here on your own time. I had a client call me the other day and said, thank you for putting this book together, because I've spoken with loan officers and they're talking to me and they're using all these terms and I'm overwhelmed and I have anxiety. He goes, and I was able to turn to this book and actually digest those things they were trying to tell me, and now I understand it. And that's how we run our business, our mortgage practice is that we're given the tools and the education to make your own decisions. So I'm not pitching the mortgage company or what I do, but that is the why behind all of it, and that's what we put down in the book. So.
And you know, that's an important why for a lot of people who have businesses or who are giving presentations, because when people come to your presentation or they come to your business, sometimes they want to leave with something. So if you can, you know, give a presentation on mortgages and then let them purchase a book on the way out the door that lets them have some more of the information that you've not only shared, but there's more in there. I mean, books are a great marketing tool, you know? I mean, so it is something that's, you know, you've done really well with.
We've been just at it for a couple months, months, but it's proven to be, it's starting to get into the hands of consumers. And I'm starting to get the feedback from the consumer directly, and it's all positive. And you know, that person that called me just Friday, I said, you literally just said the why behind my book. You literally just told me the why behind it, and you know, so we're projecting the right way, and that's what we wanted.
And, you know, if you watch episode 110 of yWrite, you will see more of this conversation because we had a great conversation about what it's like to co-write with your in-law.
Yeah.
And the late night texts that went back and forth and things like that. So, you know, if you're going to co-write a book with someone, you might want to find out how they did this so you will know how to do it.
I was spoiled.
Well, and you were spoiled because, of course, you have a wonderful father-in-law.
Yes.
He is a great guy, Jackpot, and he has experience writing. I mean, 2 books that not only are novels, but this became a movie and this became a podcast. So you worked with someone who knew how to take a book and expand it to more than just the pages. And, you know, Mike, we're going to go right into A Promise to Astrid because today has been kind of a spiritually inviting day. Must be the surroundings we're in. But again, we're all this big and the world's this big, and when someone has an experience that big, you have to share.
Yeah, had to. Yeah. And I never thought it would be, you know, turn into a movie or even become a book. But it's one of those things, that stories that stick with you, and in years after it happened, just say, I can't talk it, I have to write it down. And then so it really is it's a wonderful story, Hallmark story. Sometimes it's a little sappy, okay, but it's a true story, and those are, I think, the best stories that are true. It's fun to read.
I wouldn't say it's sappy.
No.
I would say it's inspiring.
It's inspiring.
And I think Dee, right, and I were talking about, you know, there's a lot of disconnect in our society right now. And I'm going to read this book again because this book shows persistence with trying to be connected and do goodwill. And it is a real story, you know, and so it's a jaw-dropping thing how it all connects.
And when I found out about A Promise to Astrid is right when I was publishing my book, An Angel's Journey, which is a story of a girl who came to me from the afterlife who I did not know. And she wanted me to tell her mother she was okay in the afterlife. And kind of freaked me out to go do this. It's one thing if my grandmother comes to me. It's another thing if St. Anthony finds my car keys. It's another thing if, you know, I'm talking to Mother Mary and saying a prayer or maybe asking for $5 million to God. Those conversations are normal to me. But when this girl is coming to me and I'm going to the library to research who she is, to find out, is this a real person, who she is, what this whole journey is about, and then having it manifests into like reality, and it's still to this day manifests. I mean, there's another author who's been on my show, R.A. Cook, who will be at a future showcase. She wrote a children's book, and I reached out to her and said, hey, I want you to come on my show. You know, let's talk about children's books. And while we met for coffee, she wanted to know about my books, and, you know, I gave her the brief synopsis of all of them, and she shared hers. She said, do you really believe in the afterlife? And I said, well, I do, because I've had these experiences. You know, it's like they've been large enough in my life that I can't not share what I have witnessed and believed. She said, oh, I believe. She says, you know, when I had a newborn baby, my best friend, who was my cousin growing up, she passed away young. She was a nurse. She woke me up in the middle of the night and said, check on the baby. And when she checked on the baby was wrapped in the blanket, and she's like, you know, I know she saved her life. She's like, I kept saying, oh, thank you so much, Andrea. Well, I kind of frustrated, and I go, where is Andrea from? Because the girl in my book, that happened to be her name, and she happened to be a nurse, and she was kind of like saying little things that were dinging me. And so she told me her name, and I said, that's who this book is about. And she goes, how do you know my cousin? I go, I know her now. Wow. And I mean, here 20 years later, I'm meeting someone who is this woman's first cousin, best friend.
Crazy.
And it's like, okay, these things are real, they happen. And one of my favorite scenes in this,
Yeah.
so Mike's with his neighbor, this little old lady, little neighbor,
Yeah.
very religious, very sweet, comes over to him and says, can you move this angel statue for me?
Oh, yeah. Forgot about that.
And she goes, just put it I just need you to move it from here to right there. Can you do that? And he's like, the scene in the movie, he's just like you can see the look like, this lady is nuts. She wants me to move it 2 inches. I'm late for work. All right, fine. Moves it. And there's like, this one more inch. And it's like through the interaction you had with her, like all these little interactions end up becoming this big, huge thing that, oh my gosh, I'm holding the wrong book. Yeah. He writes a book about this woman.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a woman who, he goes over the house and she's like, excuse me, I'm on the phone with God right now. And she was.
She was.
She was on the
Tried
phone
to
with
listen,
God.
and I couldn't hear.
So, amazing. So it's a very cool book, and for me, it just helped me to digest what I was doing too, saying, oh my God, someone else talks to angels. And then, of course, we go into your Voices of the Falling project, which I'm going to let you talk about this because I know it's near and dear to your heart. You talk about why you started it and why it's a podcast and why some of you authors need to go on.
There's a few people I spoke with already
Yeah.
that we'll have you on. But Voices from the Fallen, on a completely different topic than mortgages,
Yes.
and completely different than the Astrid book. Voices from the Fallen is 8 different stories of Western Mass, of people, different causes, effects, and outcomes. But really the why, the purpose behind writing is so people can relate to it. Maybe they can feel not alone. Maybe they can get answers. Maybe they can feel like, oh, I can relate to that. Maybe I can be inspired and overcome addiction in some way. We've all, and I don't know a family who hasn't been affected by this. So there may be something to hear, to learn, to draw from the book too. And yeah, you're right, it became a podcast because after writing the book, which by the way was absolutely exhausting because it just drained every ounce of emotion from me. And I have people afterwards saying, oh, I have a story, I have another story, can you write the story? They're endless. I said, I don't have it in me to write a story. Yeah. I don't have it in me anymore. However, there may be a better way to share stories, and that's where the podcast came in, where people come on and talk about it. Same purpose, to relate to the stories. Sharing stories is therapeutic, and I think a few of us in here know that. Yeah. And this was the purpose behind this, to help others through it.
I want to share a little bit of the background. I'm going to call it your background. But there's a gentleman from West Springfield named Kurt Dona. He's been on the podcast too, and he I'm going to say he wrote a movie, but he told his story verbally to a movie writer who created it into a movie, and it's the story of his son unfortunately dying from an overdose. Mike was very active in the making of this movie and getting the story told, and it was that was like the trajectory, I think, to kind of doing this, because after the movie was made, I volunteered at an outreach facility, and we showed the movie there. And after the movie was shown, this guy got bombarded with so many people coming up wanting to share their story with him. Yeah. And I just watched that, and it was like, all of a sudden, the spark in his head of, I'm going to take 7 or 8 people from Western Mass and share their story in this book, of how they adapted or got through it or whatever. And now it's like to interview these people on his podcast. You're meeting, real people. You've had John Cunningham on, who owns Joey's Deli. And he talks about what his addiction was, how he's gone through it. Should Joey write a book? Yeah, he could write a book, but he's told his story. And that's why I love my yWrite podcast, because I'm trying to get people to share their story in whatever way you want. If it's verbally, if it's in a book, if it's in illustrations, if it's on a podcast, if it's in comedy, because now I'm dabbling in a little comedy here, which I don't go by Angela, I go by Tangela G, because I was a twin in the womb, so I take the T and put it in front of Angela. Anyways, that's a whole different thing. But there's so many different ways to tell a story, and there's so many ways to heal from our stories or from someone else's.
Well, you connect to it.
Yeah.
You connect to it. And I think it's important to hear about how somebody might have hit the bottom, become homeless, overdosed, ended up in jail, and emerged from it to become productive members of families and our community. And that's a wonderful thing to share, a wonderful thing to see, especially for others who are saying, I'll never get through this. Others do, and it helps. Yeah. It helps. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ange. Thank you, Mike.
Sure.
And
Thank you guys.
the father-daughter-in-law duo here.